turn it off, and
The
then
way it goes.
I had to
Hey, we're
reopen
almost
it.
matching.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, there it is. Look at
Nice.
that. It's gonna be already a good set. We're all set up.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. This is a little later than I wanted it to be, but I'm happy it's here, and I'm excited to share. If you've been keeping up, you know I had a conversation scheduled with filmmaker, writer, director, lead actor Devin Montgomery about his film Monsters Within. And if you've seen the review, you know I mentioned it's been getting a lot of buzz on the festival circuit. So if you're curious about Mr. Montgomery and his work, definitely check him out on Instagram. Devin Montgomery, that's Devin, and then Montgomery with two Y's at the end. Be sure to add that extra Y so you can find him. And also, the film has a page on Instagram as well, just straight Monsters Within. Check it out, and you can stay tuned on updates ahead of the October 3rd release. Before I share the interview, I have to say just separately that I had a great conversation with Mr. Montgomery about the movie. It was also inspiring as someone who's a fan of movies and who hopes to make a feature one day. I made a lot of short stuff. Some of you know this. It was just such a fun and enriching conversation. I felt a kinship, just like a heart to heart connection, and that was just it's always fun to. This is easily one of my favorite interviews that I've done on the channel. And I think just as an aside, if you've seen the review of this movie, you know I enjoyed this film, and I mentioned the heart connection about it and the brother sister dynamic, which really hooked me, and that resonated with me. Some of you know, if you've read anything that I've written or know anything about what I've written, my books are about that. Like my big series right now that I'm working on, it has a lot to do. It's a very heart centered thing. But I think the hook of it for me also in the writing of it, which was not the intent when I started writing it, became about a family. And I've got the third book written now. That's probably gonna be the last book in the series. But the story as a whole is about a brother and sister sort of reconnecting. And when I think about that, and I watched Monsters Within, and how huge the sibling connection was, that immediately struck me, and it was just like, yep, I recognize that. You'll hear in the interview, Mr. Montgomery mentions mentions something about actually, staying true to your gut, following your gut, and having that be the true north. And I've definitely felt that in stuff that I've worked on, and stuff that I've written, and just something about it just felt like, I recognized the language he was speaking, and it just really made me inspired to get back and keep writing and keep doing some cool stuff. So before we get in, I want to just say a quick thank you again to Karen Oberman for helping make it possible for me to connect with Devin Montgomery on the film, and also Devin Montgomery, thank you again for your time. Had a great conversation. So now with all the housekeeping out of the way, it's time to share a conversation with Devin Montgomery, director of Monsters Within. Enjoy. First of all, thank you for taking the time to sit down
Yeah.
and talk with me about this film. And then the other thing is, I have to first also congratulations. It's a hard thing to get
Mhm.
a film made, right? Just get
Yeah.
making something. I've been on different sets and worked with other filmmakers and know how something could take a while to get something made.
Right.
And then so congratulations on that. But also the reception that the film is getting is
Mm.
pretty remarkable. You and your team, you must be thrilled.
Yeah. It's been I mean, it's in times it's definitely been very overwhelming, but in like a very great way.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
it's been really eye-opening too, to just see that there still is room for like smaller films with
Yes. Yeah.
very impactful stories, and that's been what's been really kind of cool to see.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. Am I to understand? Is this your first feature?
Yeah.
This is your first feature?
Yep.
That's fantastic. You would have never known. I would have been like, oh man, I'm sure these guys have been making movies for a while. This is like the first feature. Like
Well,
this is
thank
like,
you.
yeah, no, yeah, I was very taken with the film. The film is there are descriptions of the film online where people can look it up. They can find
Hmm.
synopses and things about the movie. I'm curious if someone were to have stopped you on the street just before this call and asked you, hey, Devin, explain
Hmm.
describe this movie to me. How would you describe the film?
Yeah, so I would describe the film as a drama thriller,
Yeah.
first and foremost, but then also it's really a story about a veteran who's going back to his hometown, dealing with all of his personal monsters and demons. But within that, you also get a look at everybody's dealing with their own things, so there's a lot of topics that we touch, but at the heart of it, it is a story about a brother and sister relationship. And so that's where the real heart of the film is. So I guess you could say the shell of it is like a horror story, but inside of it, that's where the drama and just a really heartfelt story is like inside of it.
Yeah, that was the one thing that I think that immediately hooked me when I'd seen a trailer, and it was like, oh, this is actually feels unique. This is different than something that I hadn't seen anything like this before. That feels like
Mm,
there's like a horror element, but then also it's like, oh,
yeah,
this is something uh much more not that. This is more,
yeah.
more human and things. Oh, I'm curious about this, what this is about. And springboarding on that, like I'm curious, where did the idea come from? Like, what was your first germ of the idea that got you to writing this picture as it ends up being? Like,
Yeah.
where idea come from?
Yeah, so I think I've always had that basic story of a brother-sister relationship where one has special needs because
Yeah,
that is my actual sister that's in
sure.
the film.
Yeah,
So there's always been that idea that's always been like inside of my head and what I've wanted to explore. But as I really got into more acting first, because that's really my main focus. So I started out just as an actor, but then once 2020 happened,
yeah,
I had some really great momentum going into 2020, and then of course everything happened with that, and I just kept seeing the frustration and like fear and anxiety that was just like clouded with, and everybody was going through it, and it was just for a very uncertain future. So there was a point in time where I just found myself sort of just sitting around, and it also felt like I was just waiting for something to happen. And no, in no other aspect of my life do I do that. And so I think a lot of people did get to kind of sit down and think about things that maybe they were trying to run away from.
yeah,
So it was a lot of self-examination. So there was just one night I just had this idea where I was just like, you know what? I'm just not going to sit around and wait. Like, let's just make our own short film, or even if it's just a scene. I was like, I just want to film something.
yeah,
So me and a friend, we figured something out, and he was like, we toyed around with some ideas, and we couldn't figure out exactly what we wanted to tell. And so he just asked me, he was like, well, do you have any ideas? Actually, I do, but I was like, I don't know quite how to flesh it out or feel it out. So, long story short, A Monster Within was the short film. And that was kind of born within 2020.
yeah,
And it was a 10-minute short film. And the basis of it was just a brother sister, where one has special needs, but it was how far would you go to protect someone that you care about amidst this looming fear and anxiety. So I took that fear and anxiety and I kind of portrayed it as this monster that was just going after people. And
yeah,
brother comes face to face with the monster at the end to ultimately protect his sister.
yeah,
And so, yeah, we spent about like 4 or 5 months just like really trying to figure out, because that was also one of the first real short films like I ever made.
yeah.
So we took some time making that, and then it hit the film festival circuit in 2021. And then yeah, I just got to see like, oh, I got to see the reaction that people had, and I just kept hearing from people like how meaningful it was to them, because in some way, even if it's just about a brother and a sister, everybody's going to care about somebody in their own lives. So it was like they were able to put themselves inside of that story, and then also because of this monster, there's just, I guess, a lot of thoughts that people had of really like how far would you go to protect people that you care about. And yeah, it was just a lot of conversations that I had with people. So I had this idea where I was like, well, this is a story I've always wanted to tell. And as an actor, I've been on a lot of sets where, for whatever reason, maybe the film just doesn't come out, or it just doesn't get to filming, or, there's just, for whatever reason, things happen. And so I told myself, okay, if I'm going to start making this transition, no matter what, I'm going to finish a film, no matter what. And yeah, it just picked up some steam, and then we kind of went back and forth about, okay, should we do crowdfunding, or you start going down all those avenues. And so me and my producing partner Curtis Gardner, I could not have made the film without him. We decided, hey, again, let's not just keep waiting around. Let's just do this ourselves. And so yeah, so we set out and we started making the film, and then, yeah, it's just been a wild journey.
That resonates with me a lot. I mean, I also, as some, I've been on sets too, where I can see, where you've made some stuff and you're waiting around. It's like, is it going to come out? Like, what happened? What's
Hmm.
happening? So, like, so I can so appreciate the push to say, look, no matter what's happening, we're going to keep having some action to make sure we're going to make this thing. We're
Right.
not going to sit on it. And I think adjacent to that, one of my favorite things about this movie, you mentioned the germ of it, like this brother and sister relationship, like the heart of
Hmm.
this movie is that also as a big brother to a little sister, like big brother to big brother. One of my favorite things
Hmm.
about the movie is that, but like even more so is that how Elle is almost like the glue of this
Mm.
whole movie.
Yeah.
Like the spirit and essence of Elle is like what holds this. All of Luke's decisions, everything else makes sense. Once you understand about Elle, everything
Yeah.
else makes all the sense. So I'm curious, just but that was one of the hugest hooks for me, like
Mm.
which I didn't really click. It didn't hit when I was watching. Okay, sisters involving in the trailer, but when I watched the movie, it was
Hmm.
more, oh man, this is like the emotions really get like, oh, this is I'm I'm hit by this. This is something
Hmm.
that really is is
Mm.
effective. And I'm curious from your perspective, like, can you talk about like how that came about in the process of fleshing out the feature part of
Hmm.
it?
Yeah.
Where you,
So, of course, in the short film, we only had like 10 minutes.
yeah,
So there was a lot of figuring out exactly what the most important moments, I guess you could say,
sure,
in that
yeah,
10-minute amount of time. So when I was making the feature film, so there was actually a lot that happened and that went into that. So there was a plan for really, in a lot of ways, a completely different film. And
sure,
especially the second half of the film,
yeah,
there was a
yeah,
completely different plan.
yeah,
But as of course with independent film, things
yeah.
go
Things,
awry and crazy, and you just never know what's going to happen. But as far as with how that story with the brother and the sister, how that kind of came to be is so right before we started filming, it was probably about a year or so. Before that, my sister she started going through something what's being called regression in Down syndrome.
sure,
So she was very outgoing and would hug everybody and would just want to talk to everybody and was just a very very personable and just yeah was just always wanted to be around people. And I think because of what happened with 2020, I guess it has been happening a lot with special needs, and it's something that I can understand because just all of a sudden, we had to try to tell her like you can't go and hug people.
yeah,
You had to be very
absolutely,
careful
yeah,
because just how people were and whatnot, and just the way that the world was at that time. So in some ways, it's like I don't know if she could fully click with what was happening.
sure,
And so I think that might be a big part of it. But so her personality flipped a lot. So it was about a 180. So she stopped talking, she stopped smiling for a
yeah,
while there. It was a very scary and sad time. She's doing better now.
yeah,
But yeah, when we were about to make the film, no matter what, it was important to me that she be involved somehow. And so I had a lot of conversations with, my parents, especially because they've been very supportive throughout this whole
yeah,
process. And so we had a lot of conversations, and it was just if I was going to do this, I wanted her involved no matter what. So I had to sit down and sort of really just think about how can I still have her involved and be the main focus and the main heart and soul of our film. And
yeah,
so, yeah, I was able to craft a new angle where, in a lot of ways, I am a big believer in everything happens for a reason. And
yeah,
I think with the film that we have now, it turned out so much better than I think it would have.
sure.
And just from talking to people, and I mean, there's been times at screenings where people have come up to me and they're kind of like wiping their tears
Yeah.
away,
Oh
and I'm
man,
like,
yeah,
okay, wow, like this is interesting to see this reaction from a horror film or
right,
this thriller film. And yeah, so that was an area where I was like, okay, like my gut was telling me this direction is the right way. And so as an actor, like that's something I always try to trust my gut, and that's something I've always tried to like do in life as well. And so whenever I found this new angle, I was like, yeah, I think this is it for us.
wow,
So
definitely that was the way to go. Because again, I was one of those people with tears
mm,
in a lot of the stuff. It was like it's just like this movie, this really has. So, and actually, it brings me to my next question about your process as an actor. One of my
mhm,
again, one of the things I think is, and I could be wrong about this, but what felt to me, Luke has this monologue in the center of the movie
Hmm.
in front of the fire talking to Elle. That feels to me like the centerpiece of the movie. This is
Right.
it gives us a lot of information about more information about Luke. It gives us more
Yeah.
context about Elle. And it does a lot of that monologue does a lot of work. So as a writer, number one,
Hmm.
how easy or difficult was it to put yourself in the headspace to craft the monologue, to like get to the
Hmm.
to write that, and also as an actor,
Hmm.
where how hard or easy was it to sort of portray that? We're seeing all these different shards and pieces of
Yeah.
Luke, everything in that section there. So how did you
Hmm.
get to through that from both brains as an actor and a writer?
Yeah, so as a writer, yeah, it's interesting when I look back at the script, like for the most part,
Yeah,
that monologue is exactly like what I
yeah,
wrote out. And I always knew that was going to be, like you said, the
yeah,
centerpiece. Like I always knew I wanted that to happen. And for me, also directing it and
yeah,
being the writer and the actor, I was like, okay, I'm wearing a lot of hats, but in that moment, I was like, okay, this is like a very pivotal moment for this character, but also the film in a lot of ways.
yeah.
So it did feel like there was a lot of pressure on this scene, and we were able to kind of film things very in order. And so
Mhm.
I was able to, I was also editing the film. So while
Yeah,
we were filming, I was editing it. So I was able to see the story being kind of unfolding. And so
sure.
in a lot of ways, that did help as, I guess, the actor as well, because I was able to see like all these different emotions from a lot of the characters. And like, I knew this was going to be a very pivotal point. So when we got to actually filming that scene, uh, with the way with independent film, things go awry and go crazy. And I actually had to film that scene by myself. So I filmed that scene, I lit it, I did pretty much everything. It was just me in that scene. And in honestly, in a lot of ways, I'm so glad that that happened because it
Yeah,
just felt it was just so easy to connect with Luke in that moment,
yeah.
specifically because he's in this very lonely
Yeah, yep.
moment. And as the actor, filmmaker, I was also very lonely
Yeah,
in that moment. And so, um, I toyed around with a little bit too, and this is another area that has fascinated me about this process is, we kind of did experiment and just try things with this film. And so in that moment, that whole scene is basically one take.
yeah.
Like I didn't in the very beginning, it'll cut back to who I'm looking at and what
Mhm.
I'm talking to, but for a lot of it, it's just one take. And so when I filmed, I remember I did one take and I watched it back and I was like, okay, I can watch it. I was able to switch back and forth between a director but also a viewer
Yeah,
watching it.
sure.
I was like,
Yeah,
okay, well, I'm almost there. I could just
right.
feel it, and I remember I didn't even watch the whole thing, but I was like, I'm like almost right there, and so I went back, filmed it, and then I didn't even watch the playback for that second scene
Yeah,
because I remember like literally like blacking out in that scene,
yeah,
and just I was like, okay, like I think I got it. And yeah, that so just to answer your question, it was a very interesting process filming that particular moment because it's like I art imitates life in a lot of ways, and like that's what exactly was happening in that moment
yeah.
was exactly what was
That
happening.
was it.
And as the writer though too, I knew with this story and especially that scene, it was going to be very cathartic for me.
Mhm. Yeah,
And so I was able to kind of yeah, just connect with what was happening in the story and with Luke and like I mean it's hard for me to watch that scene.
sure. Yeah,
I've watched it a few times with audiences, but I'm at the point now where especially when that scene comes up, like it's
you
just
got it.
it's hard to watch. But yeah, that's been something that's people have talked about even overseas, which is what's
Yeah,
fascinated me a lot too, is like people have been connecting with it. We had a screening in Scotland, and I got a bunch of messages after that of just people were like that scene specifically from people that were dealing with loss,
yeah,
like
yep.
that they were able to connect with that.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah,
it was a gamble in some ways because I wasn't quite sure. I've seen movies where it's a long monologue or it's a long one take scene, but I hadn't quite seen it done the way that we decided to do it. And so I was like, well, I love taking gambles, especially I think that's the beautiful thing about art is you can see what
yeah,
happens and see if people connect to it. And yeah, 9 minute monologue, and yeah,
yeah,
we
yeah.
decided to go with it, and it's been an interesting experience just watching people react to that as well.
This is so one of the things that hit me about this, and this may not have been intentional, but what hit me about the about that sequence next to the monologue was the
Hmm.
fact that Luke's sitting in front of this fire and it's this light and it's surrounded by darkness.
Mm,
Like the
mm,
darkness, like all this muck and everything around, all the
yep.
monsters, all the negative stuff, and the light is this one thing that's going to keep
Hmm.
it away for a little bit. Like L represents just like this light in his life
Yeah.
that's sort of keeping all this. How intentional was that? That he's singing from in front of a fire, and that that it seems to have some kind of symbolism to like this light
Hmm.
combating darkness, combating all the negative stuff. Or was it intentional? It might not have been intentional at all.
Yeah.
Just like it seemed like it was like
No,
that's
that's
oh,
definitely
the lyrical.
the
It's like
the setting of it was definitely intentional. But yeah, I guess I didn't quite think of it like in the moment. I always knew I wanted to do it in front of a fire
yeah,
because I just remember I've gone camping, with friends and
yeah. You
stuff.
know, so you
And
see, yeah,
when people are just sitting around a fire, it's interesting how, you can either get into like telling ghost stories or,
yeah,
you
yeah,
can start
yeah.
talking about things, but then at some point, like you just really start talking about life,
Right,
especially
yeah.
if you're there with family or just
Oh,
really
yeah,
close friends.
yeah,
And so that I just remember there was a moment where I had that experience and I would just keep looking back at the fire and I was just really fascinated by the whole setting. So I knew I always wanted that for that scene in
yeah,
that film, but um yeah, whenever I decided that, Elle was gonna make her real appearance in that scene, that's where I found like okay, like the light and the fire. And when I was actually looking around me, I remember in the scene like seeing all of the darkness and stuff.
yeah,
And yeah, it all just clicked. And so a lot of ways it was very intentional, but in also ways it was just amazing how it all worked out, like
yeah,
how it just made that scene much more meaningful. But it's that's one of the cool things I think about independent film, especially. It's like if you can really experiment and try things,
yeah. Mhm.
it's a simple setting.
Mhm.
It's like it's not like some grand where it's not like we're on this sound stage, this big
Right, yeah,
production house. So that's what I that as a filmmaker has really fascinated me and spark, pun intended, I guess.
yeah, right.
A spark has been kind of lit with the interesting avenues that you can take with independent film.
There was something about just so thematically that it worked so
Yeah.
perfectly because Luke is alone and he
Hmm.
feels that there's alone sort of in theme. He's alone, literally, physically in this space,
Right.
that you see, and it's like surrounded by all this darkness, and it's like how it seems to work so well just for the themes and everything that the
Mm.
film is touching on. Quite amazing. It just worked pretty well. I want to
Well,
shift
thank you.
gears a second and
Yeah.
talk about just as an actor working with
Hmm.
other great actors. You had some
Mm.
key people, some really serious people like in the mix. I first
Yeah.
want to talk about uh, Kendall Cabinet. She,
Yeah.
okay, to me, it's okay. There's two things. So one is like her performance is already like pretty solid the first half of the film,
Hmm.
and then the second half of the film, something
Mm.
happens where it just like there's this level, this like immediate level up, something. It's like you're having
Yeah.
a good meal and it's already good. And you get a specific bite, and the bite gets better. Like, whoa, what's this part of the?
Yeah.
It's like, what was it like to work across from her? And sort of as you guys were sort of creating scenes and stuff.
Yeah.
What was that process like working with her? Because she was great.
Yeah, this was her first feature film too.
Really, wow,
Yeah.
wow,
So that was so when I started out with writing the film and I originally wasn't even going to do like a casting call. I was just going to kind of reach out to people.
yeah,
But
yeah,
there were certain roles that I had people in mind. But Lily was a character where I was like, I think like this is an interesting character, and I think this is somebody that I didn't have someone quite in mind for it. So I was like, let's so there was three roles that I ended up doing casting call for.
mhm.
And so I did one of them was for Lily. And so I did a
Right.
casting call and the response was really incredible and really amazing actresses submitted for it. And getting to see the self tape was even fleshing out things more, seeing people actually like saying these words. And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
I did a couple of Zoom callbacks and then
yeah.
just like feeling the chemistry with people. And yeah, it was all an interesting experience. But then I got cast in a commercial as an actor, and Kendall
Yeah.
got cast as the actress in that commercial. And so we were like filming our commercial and stuff, and then in between scenes we would talk about things. And she remembers things differently than I do, but like she said, I was talking about, yeah, I'm actually casting this feature film right now. I can like send it over to you if you're interested, because you just never know how people respond to certain things,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So yeah, so I ended up sending her the script, and then she sent a self tape.
Oh, wow.
And the interesting thing is with her self tape, so she didn't have a reader. She was just saying the
Oh, yes,
lines.
sir. Oh, wow.
And so in some ways I was able to just plug myself into it
Yeah.
even better, which was I've never
Yeah,
had
that,
that experience before. And there was one moment where I was like, ah, that is Lily. Like, that is
wow.
exactly the energy and charisma and just what the character needed. And it was just a really small moment. So, um, her and I did a Zoom call back, and then that's where we really fleshed out. Like, there was like an instant chemistry. And so,
Sure.
even just doing it over Zoom, I was like, okay, if this feeling is there, then that's just going to be even more so on
Right.
actual
In person.
screen.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, she was just really, I mean, I've described it before as where it really is one of those moments where it's just magic working
Yeah.
with another actor,
Yeah.
where you just, when you're in the scene, you're just so into the scene that when you wrap and you're cut that scene, it's just like that. It was just like a blur, but it just felt like magic. And she's just incredible and just so naturally talented that, yeah, it honestly was just it was super easy to work with her. And but the amazing thing too is, and I think that's a very important thing too also as an actor, is you want to be very collaborative and you want to be very open to just whatever the director's saying, or even if it's somebody that's just sitting back and watching it, like our producer Curtis Gardner was there a lot, things that, like, that's what I love on sets, is where somebody sees something and they're like, well, what if you tried it this way? And it's like, well, that wasn't even the intention, but let's try it,
Yeah.
because sometimes that's where you find those magical moments. So yeah, I mean, it was an amazing experience working with her.
And next to her, I don't want to go too far without talking about Samuel French. He was
Oh yeah.
amazing. Like, so the other thing about, like, I'm curious, he devoured the role,
Mm,
Cyrus. He seemed to really like
yeah.
revel in like playing. He really felt like there was an extra level of juice that as
Mm,
soon as he hits the screen, it's like this,
yeah.
this like life and energy and all this just burst of, can you talk about what the process of working with him was like as
Yeah.
compared to what, because you wrote Cyrus a certain way, but
Yeah.
then Simon French comes in and he just
Mhm.
he brings his character to life in such a spectacular fashion. I'm curious to know how different was what Samuel did
Mhm.
from what you wrote.
Yeah.
Like, was it like what was your process experience working with him through that process and finding the character and creating the character?
Yeah. And I mean, for first, I just, I have to say, the film is dedicated to him, and the
Yeah,
film's
yeah,
released.
yeah,
He earlier this year passed away, which is still, it's hard to like wrap my head around.
yeah. Of course, of course.
So that's that. Like, he was just such an amazing guy, and then so talented of an actor. And working with him again, it's just one of those things in a very different avenue of working with the other actors, because it was just so intense.
Yeah.
So working with him, I knew was going to be a different experience. And he had just basically come off working on Killers of the Flower
Oh,
Moon. So
oh,
he
it
had
was
just
just
got done. Yeah, he had just got done working, with Scorsese.
yeah,
And
right.
so there was an immediate presence, that just
Sure.
knowing that he wanted to be a part of it. And um yeah, just his presence, I think, helped elevate everybody, because we knew, like, okay, this is somebody that has this experience of working with Scorsese and Robert De Niro. It's like, okay, like, we better step
Yeah,
our games up.
yeah.
Like, I mean, we're all so into this, that that's the amazing thing too, is like when people are so into it, and you can take it up, like you said, even
It's
another level.
yeah.
Like, that's something that was really special. And yeah, him and I, we talked a lot about the character. Like, before he got to set, him and I talked a lot, and I told him, this is, of course, my first feature film that I'm directing, but as an actor, like, I know I love when directors are very trusting to their actor. I mean, you were cast for a reason, so put yourself, put what you think you have into the character. And if something's not working, hey, the beautiful thing is we can try again. We can do a different take. So we talked a lot about Cyrus, and I definitely wrote Cyrus as a character where I wanted him to just immediately change the direction of the film once he shows up. I That was always the plan. And so I knew I needed somebody that had this presence about them. And I knew he was going to just throw himself into that character and bring everything that he had. And so that, yeah, just talking with him early on, I was like, this is going to be fun. Like, this is going to be a lot of fun to do. And yeah, so when we all got to set and we started filming, the first thing that we started filming was the scene where I see him in the main area of the
Oh,
small
right.
town,
Yeah,
and I'm just
right.
sort of
Yeah.
like following him. So that was the first thing that we filmed. And yeah, just seeing like a switch for him. It was like, okay, this is yeah. The next day we were going to film the really intense scenes. So just that first night, I think we were all like, okay, yeah, this is going to be great. But actually getting to work with him and that first scene where it was just Cyrus and Lily.
Yeah.
So I got to just sit back and actually just direct. And that, yeah, that was again one of those moments where it was really fascinating too because Kendall and Sam had different approaches of how they prepare.
Yeah.
And so Sam would really like find the character in the moment in a lot of ways. And so Kendall had already been so into this character and the story. And so the first couple takes, it was really fascinating too, because it was like both of them are really figuring this out. And they also have to have this history between them. And
Yeah.
so sometimes like if you have the liberty and you have the means to do it, like just play the scene out and like record stuff, but just see what happens. And so I would say probably after about the first two takes, that's where things really got like it just clicked for both. And I think Sam kind of saw like moments that like Kendall, like just what she was doing as Lily, like really got under his skin.
Yeah.
And so he really like, yeah. And I remember him saying like how that helped him even more, like connect in that scene. And so, yeah, it was just, again, seeing two very talented actors just work. There was a couple of times where I suggested a couple different things and then, we would try different angles and stuff. But I believe that was also the moment too. I wanted there to be a very like free flowing camera movement.
Yeah.
And that's like Terrence Malick's a big
Yeah.
inspiration for
Yeah.
me.
Wow.
And that's something that I've always loved about his films is just how the camera almost it's like choreography in a lot of ways, and it just feels like its own character. And I knew I wanted in those moments to have that. So that's what we were also experimenting with. And it was just crazy how it all just worked together and it all just went it went great. And it made me, but also the next day is when we were going to film the scene where it was the three of us.
Really? Right. Yeah.
And so that was where I was like, again, watching that, it was like, okay, I gotta step my
You
game
can do
up
it.
here.
Yeah.
Like I'm ready. Like it makes you excited to just like I'm not, I barely slept when we were filming. I was running on pure adrenaline. So those moments where it just like it reminds you of just how fun that it is to make a movie and how exciting it is. Like, yeah, if you can really focus on those moments, it makes working with amazing actors. Honestly, it's very easy, but it's just I think as a director, that's where I think you just have to sometimes just sit back and let people let their talent shine, you
Yeah.
know. And you can you're the one that's like putting the movie together. So I was also editing, so I was able to like edit almost while I was
Yeah.
watching it.
While
So
you're
that's
in
why I was like the little tweaks and stuff. It would just be like, okay, where I think we might cut to a different angle here, so let's just pick it back up. It was things like that, very just somewhat more technical stuff. But yeah, their performances just inspired the hell out of me the entire
Yeah.
time. So
Oh man.
yeah,
I want to jump back to something you said about the camera moves and how the free
yeah,
it's like that's just in that scene throughout the whole movie, but in that scene also it's great because like the camera has a certain life that's taking on
hmm
that's sort of depicting life that's happening in the sequence. There's a lot of
right,
energy, a lot of electricity, a lot of stuff being transferred, and how the
yeah,
camera is also sort of feeding off of that. It's like this cyclical. It's actually really, really great. And along the lines of like camera stuff, there's some very distinct and pronounced cinematography in this movie. I'm
Mm.
curious, what were some of your conversations like with your DP in terms
Yep.
of how much of it was, did you see stuff and approve sort of what was being shot? Or was it, how much did you let him go and just go, hey, like just shoot some stuff and then see what was that? Because there's some really cool,
Yeah.
really like nice cinematography in this film. I'm just curious, what was the thought process around how some of that stuff was shot? How involved
Yeah.
were you, and how much did you let go and allow him to do his work?
Yeah, and so to start off with, like as I've said earlier, like so with independent film, sometimes things come awry and things go crazy and things are very unexpected. So there were several people behind the camera
Yeah, oh
throughout the
yeah,
film.
wow,
We started out with a DP that was so basically the early on in the film we had a certain DP that was behind the camera. And what was really fun though with that is I was able to learn a lot about lighting and
yeah,
angles and stuff. So
yeah,
I was kind of learning on the job as well. Well, so the very first shot of the film, it's at this location called the Great Salt Plains,
yeah, yeah,
and that's here in Oklahoma. And so just the way that it worked that day was the DP that we had, so we basically had two DPs throughout the film. Well, both of them were not able to go that day, and that was
yeah.
the only day that this
Oh
location was
wow,
like, you guys can film here, but it has to be this specific time, and
oh
everything was ready to go, and so I had to make sort of a decision of like, well, we got to go today to film this.
yeah,
So yeah, so for that scene, I handed the camera to one of the our crew members and his name's Chris Bruza, and I was just like, "Hey, how do you feel about I can help guide you to where I want to see
yeah,
like certain angles and stuff, but also again, like I the people that I surround myself with, I trust.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and that's why I surround myself with them,
right,
and they are just all very talented people. And I was like, and there's a couple times where I was like, honestly, I just trust your eye. So whatever you find that's interesting, let's get these specific moments that I have in my head that I think would work out for things. But if there's something you see, feel free to like let's just try it. And so because we had about 3 or 4 hours at this location, and luckily, we were the only ones out there. So
right,
in other ways too, it did help with just being able to connect with that the what Luke was going through in that moment as
yeah,
well. But yeah, so once that worked out, I was like, no matter what, like I said, we're getting this film made and done. So you have to do whatever you can to get it done. But when I was working with the actual DPs that I had in mind for what we were doing, like yeah, the locations that I had, like so for instance at the bar, like
yeah,
we
yeah,
spent a lot of time at the bar where we were just there and just kind of like figuring out, okay, I think this is where we would film this scene. And in some ways, like we don't want to just do the simple like coverage
right, yeah,
type of
yeah,
thing,
right,
because
yeah,
the movies that always fascinate me the most are the ones that have very stylistic choices.
yeah,
And so even with like the colors and things like that, like yeah, a lot of that was very intentional, but there's definitely moments where it's almost like we would be talking about something and then the camera would be set down and then we would be able to see the monitor, and I'm like, actually that looks really good right
right,
there.
yeah,
And then so
yeah.
we would just sort of like figure out, and so there were moments like that that definitely happened a lot. But so the well, and then also there's about 20 minutes of the film where I'm behind the camera,
Yeah,
because someone doesn't
you
show
right.
up or isn't able, for one of our DP who gets the actual credit because he had the most time behind the camera. His name's Brendan Stewart, so he's actually an actor first,
Oh
and
wow.
then
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, him and I, that's the beautiful thing too, is like, especially at the end scene where it's me and Sam and Kendall, um, to kind of speed things up as well. Him
Yeah.
and I have a very similar mindset. We love the same movies.
That's
It's like we're on the same wavelength.
yeah.
So there would be times where I would just look over at him when we're done and he would just be like,
Yeah. Like
and it's
yes,
like, all right,
like
then we got it.
you
We
got it.
got it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I definitely, like, he knew exactly what I meant when I would say like very Malik, like we
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
Malik,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. That's right.
we just had this like with the camera free flowing, we just had a very, our chemistry and him and I's mindset was just so connected that it just helped things a lot. But yeah, so the scene from the monologue scene all the way to where it's the last scene with the Sammy character where I pick up the phone. So I basically filmed all of those scenes because Brendan that day he was sick and so he wasn't able to come, but everybody else was on set and we had that bar location. And that's where I just had like a moment of, well, let's let's just
Yeah,
film
you might as
and
well
see
just
what
get.
happens. And yeah, in a lot of ways it did help being able to again just be able to see exactly what was happening. But I love the idea of there's just a lot of passion behind our film and just a lot of different hands were on it, even for like this personal story for just like myself and especially this character. It just everything seemed to just fit very well. And so I just remember when I was editing, I just loved how different scenes had different feelings. And
Yeah.
I think that helped a lot with having different people behind the camera and also just from independent side of things. You got to do whatever you got to do to get things done sometimes.
This first last question is about the music. There's also
Yeah.
some really cool music in this movie. I think like the from the score side, what was the process of actually sourcing the music, getting
Mhm.
different people to perform? For instance, you have a couple of guys who are performing music in
Yeah.
the movie. Like, what was that process like?
So specifically for that song and that for that scene, so that actor is somebody that I met in an acting class,
Oh,
and when I was writing specifically those characters, I had him. His name's Brendan Smith, and I had him in mind for that character. And if I'm making a movie and people are that I have faith in and that I really believe in, I want them to shine as
yeah,
well. And so he is an actor, but he's also a singer in a band here in Oklahoma called
oh,
Cyanide Hook.
cool.
And so I knew I was like, well, when you're at a bar, sometimes people just sing.
Yep,
Sometimes it
yep,
can be karaoke. So they had that song when I told him about the film. So
yeah.
he just immediately that's the song that they were working on.
Oh, yeah. Wow,
And
that's
so he was like, "Well, what do you think of this?" And they had like an acoustic version. And I was like, "Oh, dude, that's perfect. Like that's
yeah.
going to be the song." And their studio version is actually what's the end credit scene.
Right,
In the
yeah,
credit
yeah.
scene, yeah, that's their studio version of that song,
That's really
which I
cool.
think is really cool. And it just recently came out. Like they just recently released it.
That's cool.
And so yeah, from that for that instance, I knew that's what I wanted from for that music. But yeah, music has always fascinated me in films, and scores are always like what I just find that whole side of things very interesting. So for a lot of the guitar kind of like raw sounds, so we just Brandon Stewart actually did that. So we just sat
Oh,
down
that's
one
cool.
night and I was just like,
Like,
what do you we were talking about things and he would just play things and then I was just like, what if you were just like just filled with rage and then he'd be like, "Brr,"
yeah,
and like
yeah.
things like that. Like those are all just sounds and scores that we
That's
made
so cool. Oh,
ourselves.
that's so awesome.
Um, but then towards the middle-ish to the end of the film, I wanted it to kind of feel like I knew going in, we're a very small independent film, right? Like I wanted to keep that raw feeling with certain scores and in a lot of ways like that's what I think has been fascinating that people have responded to a lot is just how raw the film feels and that's another thing like people have talked about the music but I knew kind of the second half to the ending I wanted a very different tone with things and so yeah there's this composer his name's Scott Buckley
Yeah, there. Yeah, that's
and yeah he made just beautiful
it's
scores.
fantastic music.
Yeah,
Like the music, it was like,
beautiful. And I remember when I was like listening to them, um, yeah, it just like for instance the scene where it shows me in the main street downtown
yeah,
of the small town and I see Cyrus. To me, in some ways, like that scene reminds me of like almost a cut scene in like a video game.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah. That's
it's
yeah,
always
yeah.
in those moments, it's always these like really grand, epic sort of sounds. And so that's why I was like, we need this.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, there was a lot of figuring out how we can get this in the film and how we can make that work. And very luckily, everything that like I said earlier, everything that needed to happened for this film, it all worked out. And like that was the amazing thing. So I'm just so thankful to have like Scott Buckley's music in the film because yeah, it really it was almost just like you're going on this journey, and as you're going on this journey, it's like, well, how do you keep people's attention, or how do you make things feel more like the tensions rising in a lot of ways? And yeah, I knew that if music plays such a big factor in film,
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
just knew I we needed something like that.
That's the feeling I got. Like because the at that stage in the movie, there's already something like just tonally with the plot. It's already the tension is increasing, and so
Yeah.
the music is there now also increasing, and it's
Hmm.
matching that. It's like, oh man, where's this? What's going? And it's a distinct feel from what you get from the first half of the movie.
Right.
Once you get there, it's like, okay, now we're stuff is it's we're going to this peak is coming. We're getting up. We're
Yeah.
going to this crescendo. It's coming up, and it's so cool
Right.
how the music sort of reflects that, and it's great music too. It's like, wow, this is a series that feels much more epic and scope,
Hmm.
and in the scale it feels like, okay, we're on track now. We're on this is the we're in the home stretch here. We're
Right.
gonna
Oh yeah.
at this stage. What do you hope? I think at this point, you've obviously you've been to a lot of different festivals and stuff with the
Hmm.
movie. Talked to a lot of people. If at this point, I don't know if there is anything else that you would want someone to take from it, but if you had a thought, like what would you hope for audiences? I think beyond this to take from the experience beyond just like this is a cool thriller, you know.
Right.
I don't know if you've even thought about that, but like what was the like other audiences from here on in
Yeah.
when this movie drops? Like what are people taking from this movie that you hope?
Yeah, and see that it's all a lot of this experience has been new for me and like figuring
Sure.
things out as, we've been doing this. And so it's like it is in a lot of ways too. It's been like a video game where it's like different levels.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like I'm
Yes.
at the point now where I feel like my health bar is like
Yeah.
and
Right.
energy level
Yeah.
kind of going low, but then like we reach another level and then it's like, okay,
You
I
got
got
more. Yeah.
another life or
Yeah.
something,
Right. Yeah.
And so yeah, it's been interesting that like I think I mentioned earlier how some things have been overwhelming
True.
and
Yeah.
but it's at the same time it's just been really amazing. So now that we're really like today, pre-orders started on Fandango
Oh
at
wow.
home,
Really. Wow.
and
Okay.
then we release on October 3rd on
Yeah.
Prime and Fandango at home and a few others. But yeah, I think the thing that I would really just like people to take away from the film is just that brother sister relationship and just how important the people are that are in your life and just to really think and appreciate certain moments because you just never know when things can be taken away or certain things are gone. And it's also there was an area where I thought about adding in also for Luke because there's a lot of personal stuff in the film, obviously that I put in and relate to as the character that I'm portraying, but then there's obviously things that aren't. But like I'm adopted, so
Mhm. Yeah.
like in some ways you could say like with my sister, we're not technically blood, but to me that doesn't matter.
Right.
Like
Exactly.
and I think that's the important thing of life too is like even if people are going through like family issues or you have issues with your family, there's still people that you surround yourself with. I mean, your friends can become
Yeah.
family,
Yeah.
And so I think that's what I would love people to really take away and then just, if it makes you think and just take time to reflect on, or even if you have experienced loss, just remembering the good times and those really impactful moments with the people that have meant so much to you and keep their memory going. And that's what's been also like I had a conversation with Samuel French's brother recently, and they're just
Wow.
obviously it's been a very tough year for them.
Sure.
And it's hard to even imagine that, but with what his brother said, it's like they're really excited about this film coming out because in a lot of ways they get to kind of see Sam again and
Yeah.
like just experience and his memory. And I mean he's such a important part of the film. I think that's another thing too, is just like uh with these independent films, like we're in a really interesting area, I feel like, especially with the arts and entertainment where um I think I said it earlier where it's like a lot of the times at movie theaters and what seems to get a lot of the coverage and the buzz are these just huge
Yeah.
budget
Right.
movies but there's, they could be done very well, and obviously they have all the great lights and cameras and sound studio, all that, but sometimes what's missing is like the heart
The heart. Yep.
and like what people can connect to. And that's why I think uh, I really want to see, and I'm a big believer now, especially that if you're an actor or if you're a director, or it really doesn't matter if you're whatever, if you're a musician, like keep putting things that mean a lot to you into your projects, because on this journey, that's what I've seen, is just there are still places for films like this. Even, I mean, at these film festivals that we were at, I mean, there was times where we're up against films with $1 million
Yeah.
budgets.
Right.
Like, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
even like $600,000 budgets. Like, I mean, we are a true independent film,
Yeah.
and so to see the reaction that we've gotten against a lot of these other films too, that's what's been fascinating as well. So I think it would be really amazing to just see like support for just more independent films. And because I do think this is a very important art form, and even if it can just take you away from an hour and 40 minutes, it takes you out of things that you're going through, but also just impact you in a way. I think, yeah, I just think that that's very important and something we really need right now in the world. So, and it's definitely, with our film, we definitely touch a lot of different subjects, but yeah, just the heart. I hope people really can feel that and the passion that we have in our film, because everybody involved, like, we all love what we're doing, and we want to continue doing this. So
I have to say I so appreciate that so much about, first of all, talking with you about this project, but also
Mhm.
the fact that because that was the other hook for me, was that it felt like it was above everything else. It was a heart story. Like the heart
Mm.
was
Yeah.
the piece of that made the experience that much more meaningful. It was much more meaningful than something you have.
Mm.
You could have done a cool horror film and had this
Right.
just be that. There's plenty of movies
Yeah.
that do that, but
Yeah.
all the ones that I feel like that work and it on this other level have this heart element of it, that actually those ones actually feel like, for me personally, go further. And those are the kinds
Mm.
of things that I wanted to, which is why I think when I put this review up on the channel, I like talking about movies that also have like a strong heart component to it. That's just like, oh, this is
Yeah.
something that, which is not, again, which is not something that I could even clocked from like reading about it
Mm.
or looking at
Yeah.
it. You get like a sense of, oh, this seems like a cool, unique thing that, but actually having
Right.
seen it, it's like, oh, that's all of that is so apparent. Like you feel it's like that's what's driving the whole movie. There's
Hmm.
a beating heart pulse to this movie. That's like,
Yeah.
oh, this is the kind of stuff. Yeah, we need more of this. Again, I appreciate you taking this time to have this
Oh
conversation
yeah.
about
Absolutely.
this project, because it was it's yeah, really hit me. And it's always cool to talk to the people behind it, like the person you
Yeah.
wrote this and made this. Is like just yeah, just yeah. And can you say again, so this drops October 3rd, right? Is that right?
Yeah. So this
On
comes out October 3rd. The main ones are going to be Amazon Prime and Fandango at
okay,
home. Yeah. And then we potentially, which would time very well with Veterans Day. So
oh
there's the
yeah,
potential on November 7th for it to also have its streaming premiere on Screambox,
oh yeah, okay, cool.
which would be really amazing.
That's gonna
So
be cool. That's gonna.
yeah.
Are there any plans at all? Do you think? As far, I mean, what any like hard copy releases or anything
Yeah,
like
so we
video?
are going to do a physical media release. It'll
Yeah.
probably be like later, maybe in November or December. But one of the cool things that so we did get a VHS
Oh, really?
cover made.
Oh,
And
that's
so we're
cool.
we're toying around with doing some like special giveaways where we actually are going to try to do like give away a VHS of the film.
That's cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So yeah, there will be a physical media release and also possibly a VHS release. So
That would be, yeah,
yeah.
that actually would be cool. That yeah, I'd definitely be down for that. That's cool. And so, lastly, Mr. Montgomery, like, what's next for you after this project?
Mhm.
So once the run is, this project is out and
Yeah.
it's getting all this attention. Are you working on anything now? Are you thinking about your next projects, and
Mhm.
what's on in the queue for you?
Yeah, so next up, so as an actor, and it was interesting while making this, I booked other jobs as an actor.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So one feature film that's it probably will come out next year, but I'm really excited about it. It was a lot of fun to make. It's called Worm. It's a
Oh,
World War I creature feature.
Oh, wow.
and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
very VFX heavy, but it was an amazing experience. So I have a supporting role as one of the U.S. soldiers in that,
Oh,
and
cool.
there's some really intense scenes, and yeah, it's I think it's gonna probably really open some doors for a lot of people that were involved because yeah, it's definitely it's another one where even though it's a horror film, there's still a lot of like heart in that one as well. But especially with the war movie aspect, like it just
That's cool. Yeah, that's
yeah, it
gonna
was
be fun.
fascinating. So that one's called Worm. And then so Kendall and I actually, so she's the lead in it, but I got cast as a supporting role, but it was all improv.
Yeah.
So all the
Oh,
dialogues
good.
improvised. That one's called The Long Road Home.
Oh,
And I believe that's gonna be one where it hits the festival circuit first.
mhm.
And I think they're still kind of tweaking it and stuff because yeah, everything was improvised. And so it was a really fascinating way
Yeah.
to make a movie. And yeah, so that one I'm excited about. But then as a filmmaker, so I've me and my producing partner Curtis Gardner. So we started what's called the Cineval Picture Show, which is what was the production company of this Monsters Within. Well, we've decided to keep our foot on the gas and keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
So we just recently completed two proof of concepts for our next
Oh, cool.
thing, and one's called "See You in Your Sleep," which is sort of Nightmare on Elm Street Flatliners inspired.
Yeah.
But that one, again, I'm excited the way that turned out because I put a lot of heart into that one as well. So it's just a different avenue of horror, but there's a lot of the heart story in that one was a fascinating direction that I wanted to do with that. And then the next one that we also finished, it's called Beneath His Skin. And that one is definitely just way more horror.
Right. Just
It's
straight.
just
Just
strictly,
straight
and
up.
we
Yeah.
decided to delve into like a little bit of body horror as well because I've always been
Oh,
fascinated by
yeah.
movies like that. So with that film, I get to really explore being a bad guy, and I mean a very evil character. So yeah, we definitely we're excited about the future, and I think we've found a really interesting avenue, especially making films here in Oklahoma because a lot of movies are coming here to film
Yeah.
because it's a lot cheaper to film here, but also it's so film friendly that I
Awesome.
couldn't have made Monsters Within anywhere else.
Wow.
So yeah, it's been interesting because this film has started to kind of open up some doors with
Sure.
certain things.
Yeah.
But whereas maybe 5 to 10 years ago, you would have had to leave Oklahoma
Yeah.
to really pursue acting.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of like you can, if you're able to kind of go wherever you need to, but still use this as a base, that's
Yeah.
kind of a
That's
really
great.
perfect place. And people from LA and New York are coming here
Yeah. Right.
to
Yeah.
pursue acting, which
Yeah.
is like
That's like what? Yeah. Right.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
been it's an interesting, like I said, it's an interesting time going on. So yeah, we're going to keep making stuff, and we're going to just keep filming. The cinematographer on both of the projects that we just finished, his name's Spencer Sakurai,
Yeah.
and he is an amazing cinematographer.
Wow.
And so like yeah, it was good to actually work with a dedicated DP on
Yeah.
both
Like
of those
someone who actually,
projects.
right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it was because that was one thing he said. He's like, I want you to just worry about acting and directing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
that's
That's it.
music to
Right.
my
Yeah.
ears.
Yeah. That's it. You don't have to.
Yeah. But yeah, we started submitting those and we might hear something back because it's the quality really took a big
Just
jump
change
with
it.
both
Right.
of those. And so where those are going to hit the film festival circuit hopefully maybe around December-ish,
Oh, okay.
maybe
Yeah.
January. But yeah, the contacts I've made with Monsters Within, I'm going to be able to use both of those as like, hey,
Yeah.
this is what we're working on next. See what happens. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation. I know it was probably a little bit longer than you thought, spanning, a range of different topics related to the movie and other projects Devin has going on. Keep an eye out. Again, check him out on Instagram, Devin Montgomery with two Y's, and keep an eye out on the Monsters Within page of Instagram, just so you're aware of any new things that come up around the film. Again, the film drops October 3rd on streaming platforms. So keep an eye out for that. If you're curious about seeing something unique and just a little bit outside of the box, keep an open mind and check out Monsters Within. Thank you for your time. Take care. Stay tuned. More reviews on the way. I'm out of here. See you in the next video.